Before we get on with the main topic of this video, which is generating your own images for your carousel, let's first continue with a couple important things from the last video. One would be, what if you wanted to add a fourth, fifth, and so on image to here? Well, it first of all helps to clean this up a little bit. So basically, this is one image, this is the second, this is the third. So how about if we just move these divs in, put some spacing in here. Okay, so now you see image 3, image 2, image 1. So if we want to add another image, we just simply copy, go for the last one, definitely not the first one, because you see it's got this item active in here. And you might think, well, why isn't that always active? Well, if you remember back to when we wrote our own JavaScript, what's happening is it's using JavaScript to replace this as the images come in. If that doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. Just grab the last one, paste that in, maybe clean it up so it looks like the other ones, and then you'd be all set to put your fourth image in here. Now remember what this Alt is for. This is for people with screen readers, so you really should change this, give a description of what the image is, just for people that don't have sight. For now, just to keep everything clean, we'll just change it at least to fourth for now. Now let's move on to generating images, your own images for your own site. The first thing you got to do is come up with what is the ultimate size for these. So by experimenting based on these two layouts, let me show you what I concluded. Now, again, I'm looking at these on a laptop, so this is about as small as someone would see these on a regular computer. And if you're not going to do media inquiries to make it work for a phone, this is all that you need to worry about. So we can see in this case the 800 by 600 gets cut off a little bit at the bottom. So what I concluded for this is that for this layout is at 1,000 by 500 points. If we always have an image that would fit inside of here, meaning it's either always going to be 1,000 pixels wide or 500 pixels tall. And I'll show you how to accomplish that, and I'll show you what that means in practical terms in a second. For the other layout with the navigation on the side, what I concluded was an image that occupies or maxes out at 800 by 600 works the best. So you can use that as a starting point, but just double make sure that it works for you. Like for example, if you have a super wide bar over here as compared to mine, or super narrow, the numbers may change for you. I'm going to assume that you have your numbers that you're shooting for, and now we'll go on. We're going to start with if you made a work in Illustrator. So what I'm about to show you works for anything created in Illustrator, even if it has placed images. If it's a pure image, then you're going to pay attention when I get to showing you how to do the method in Photoshop. Okay, so we're going to move into Illustrator, open up a project that you are ready to put into your portfolio. First thing first, let's make sure we're all looking at the same stuff. So go to Essentials up here, Reset Essentials if you need to. This is especially for people who aren't advanced users. Main thing is I just want you to be able to see properties over here. Okay, so let's pretend that this is a work that you have done, and it really doesn't matter if your work is 100% vector graphics like this text, or just graphics that you drew in here by hand or using the shape tool. Doesn't matter if it includes images. Now I am giving you the best case, easiest scenario first, and then we'll move on to a more complex example. So if your image has bleeds or crop marks on it, watch through the whole thing before you try this. Figure out if your scenario is more complex than this. But assuming that it just goes right to the edge of the artboard, and I'll click over here on the Artboard tool. So if your project goes just right to the edge of your artboard and not over, then you're okay. So next thing we want to do is save out a backup copy just to make sure that we can't screw up this precious piece of design work that we have. So we'll just do a simple save as, add something to the end of here, such as for export, so we know later when we're going in our files what that's all about. We can delete it later if we want to, or keep it as an example. The next step is I'm just taking a hand tool and pushing away from my current artboard or artboards, and again, that doesn't matter. You could have 50 artboards in here, doesn't matter. We're going to go over to the Artboard tool, and we are just going to click and drag out an artboard. Before we do that, we want to switch over to pixels though. You can use the shortcut Command R to bring out the rulers, or you can go to View and Rulers, Show Rulers, and up in here, in case you're in any other mode other than pixels, change it to pixels. So what you do is you get your cursor in the ruler, right click, and then select whatever you want. In this case, we want to select pixels. Now we're going to take that Artboard tool, get a good distance away, click, drag, and we're going to make this way bigger than it needs to be. The first one I'll do is for 800 by 600. You can see the width and the height in the bottom. Don't try to do it exact. Just get it pretty close. Then go up into Properties, make your width 800, in this example 600. And then for those of you doing 1000 by 500, I'll just repeat the same thing here. And if you're using your own size, then obviously you would punch that size in. Okay, I'm going to Command minus so I can see everything that I have going on here. Now what you want to do is make sure that you have no layers locked and no individual selections are locked. So you just go in here, click on layers. If you have a whole bunch of layers, you can use from the panel down here and select unlock all if that's available. If it's not, it means you don't have a whole bunch of layers like I don't, but you just want to make sure there's not a lock there. Also, it's very possible that you could have locked something in another way. So you look up here, you go to Object, and if Unlock All is available to select, then you select it. In my case, it isn't. Now, I've just quickly changed it to something being locked so you can see the difference. You go up to Object, and now Unlock All is available. You click it. Any individual selections are now unlocked. So as long as you've done that, unlocked all your layers, you are ready to go. Then you're simply going to grab this, bring it over to your new artboard, and do some resizing. Before I do that, just to make sure that nothing drifts apart from each other, I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to go up to Object and Group. So that's make a selection of everything, in my case 3 different elements, and go up to Object, Group. Now if I move one thing, they all move together. I'm going to Command Z that to put it back. So what I'm going to do here is Option, hold down the Option key, click and drag out a copy to my new artboard. And then I'll just repeat that again for the other artboard. So click, drag, hold down the Option key, place that roughly over the artboard. Now if you're an advanced user, you can probably think of easier ways to do what I'm about to show you. But in the more complicated example that comes up, you pretty much have to do it this way. So I'm just going to show you the most bulletproof way. You're just going to take your image and you are either going to match the height or the width of your artboard. Now, and it has to fit inside of the artboard. So you can tell, common sense would tell you if we try to match the height, it's just going to be way too big, right? That's not going to work. So we can see in this wide example that it's the width that we're going to match. So we're going to take this image, we're going to move it to an edge, and it helps to have these smart guides on. If they're not on, you can go up to View and put a check next to Smart Guides. Mine already has one, so I'm going to get out of there. And by putting a check, I just mean you click on it if it doesn't have a check. And then make sure you are holding down the Shift key. You are going to click and drag on one of these little white squares. You are going to hold down the Shift key and you are going to rein that in. And it should come out, in this case, to exactly 800. And then in this case, it should come out exactly to 1000. Once we get right on that edge, click, drag. Okay, so that's easy in this example. Now what we want to do is just center your image in the artboard. And to center the image, what we are going to do is bring out the Align tool. So we go to Window, we go to Align. In the Align tool, if it's not already showing, we want to go to this little drop down, click Show Options so that we see this. Then what we want to do is change Align to Align to Artboard. We click on our image. We first go to this one, Horizontal Align Center. That's probably already done. Then we go to Horizontal Align Center. Now we're going to do the same thing in this other example. Okay, so that image is in there perfectly. Now what we're going to do is add a background color to this that is the same exact color that we need in our website. So by now, if you're organized, you probably have that written down. If not, maybe we have to go back to our original design in Photoshop, grab the eyedropper tool, and click over one of the images. Open this up, and what we're interested in is that hex color. So we'll copy that. We'll go back over to Illustrator, and now at this point we want to make sure that we are in CMYK color mode, because this is for the web. So we're going to go to File, we're going to go to Document Color Mode, and if it's in CMYK, change it to RGB. Now let's create a layer that is underneath everything. So in the Layers panel, we click down here at the bottom where it says, if you roll your mouse over it, you'll be able to see it. And your computer, it says Create New Layer. Click that button. There's our new layer. We're going to drag it below our other layers, maybe name it BG background by clicking on it. We just want to make sure that it is indeed not this layer, the top layer that we're working on, and I can tell that by clicking the eyeball. So I go to this layer, I grab the rectangle tool. I first double click on the fill color, and I'm going to paste my color in. And then I am going to draw out a rectangle that is bigger than my artboard. So it entirely fills that area in. At this point, you are ready for the final two steps, which is exporting this out as a JPEG or a PNG and then checking it in Photoshop. But I am not going to go there yet. I'm first going to go to the complicated example. So we're going to go File, Save, have this saved. Now, if you have something that falls under this description where it does have a bleed, go ahead, open that document, and we'll get that one ready. Okay, so in this example, we have a poster that was created, and if I zoom in on a corner here, what you can see is that the edge of the artboard, which is right here, it actually goes 1/8 of an inch beyond that and then has this red line which is called a bleed. We need to turn the bleed off in the document, otherwise that'll mess up the exporting process. So we're going to go to Document Setup, and we're going to see that there's a bleed in there. We're going to make sure that this is locked so that when I zero out one, they all zero out. When I click OK, you'll see that red line goes away. Very often, if there's a bleed, there is also crop marks. And so if you do see these marks here that point to the artboard, you want to click on them. Again, make sure nothing is locked over here or locked under Object. Unlock all if that's available, do it, and then make sure you can click on the crop marks, and then you just simply, even though you clicked on the artboard, this thing gets selected. Just delete that. So now we're all starting in the same place here. We have the image, and realize I'm running out of time here, so I will continue on in the next video with this.